In today's video, we are looking at the ideal brushes, oil painting brushes for beginners. I'm going to show you how to build up a good set of brushes for yourself. And if you stay till the end of this video, we're going to have some fun and experiment on creating your own types of brushes. So let's begin. In my 25 plus years as an artist, I have come to ask myself the question, what is the best brush for oil painting? Art stores sells an overwhelming variety of brushes. And you know, as a student or as a beginner, you get to ask yourself the question, well, where should I start? Where should I begin? So the short answer to that is that there is no good or bad brushes, just the right brush for the job. And with some experimentation, you will find the brushes that will work for you and your particular style. So in this video, I am giving you some guided advice so that you can make informed decisions as to which brushes you want to use so that you can get quicker and better results in your oil painting. So my short answer for you is to get what I would call a high-low mix. Get some good quality brushes and include a few cheaper ones that you can experiment with. If you want to buy good quality brushes, I strongly suggest that you don't buy packaged sets of brushes. Rather go for the individual brushes where you can individually choose the size and the shape of the brush. These brushes are generally better quality. So here you can see a wide variety of brushes. I stock these for my art school, for my students, and I personally use some of these brushes for my own professional work. So let's divide it in and let's have a look at the different types. So the first type of brush that I want to discuss that is really good for oil painting is the synthetic hair square flat brush. I use these very often. Here I have the more expensive tier gallery brushes, and these ones are also very good. And these brushes do very nice block-ins. What they do, and why I recommend you should use a nylon flat is that unlike the hog bristle, the fibers are very densely packed together. And because of that, it doesn't really suck the paint, the oil paint, into the fibers. The oil paint is more on the surface of the brush. You load the surface of the brush and you can push the paint nice firmly into the actual canvas textures, the actual thread of the canvas. They do a very good job of creating nice clean shapes. I use ones that are quite big, and I would recommend you would get a few smaller ones and maybe a large one or two. They really work well. These are very large ones. Okay, maybe if you decide you want to go for really bigger works, that would be the one to use. Okay, so what makes it a good brush and what makes it a cheaper tier brush? So this is a good one, that it's kind of firm and strong, okay, and yet very soft and dense. This is a cheap one. Let's open this up so you can see exactly what is exactly going on here. So I'm just, it's quite, there we go. What we see here is that the brush is a little bit more floppy, okay? It's not so strong, and the ferrule is not so strong either. Good quality brushes are very strong at the ferrule. They got a more of a firm, and they can take a lot more punishment. These ones, on the other hand, tend to not be as strong at the ferrule. They tend to be a bit wobbly and they can break off. Not a problem, because you can take these and you can still use these and create, maybe you can glue them here and fasten them. It's a good way of maintaining them. Another thing about these ones is that you can use them to create some really beautiful angled sculpting brushes and daggers. I'll show you how to do this later. Okay, next category is our round synthetic hair. Okay, once again, a variety of different types. And I just want to stress and add that I don't get paid to endorse any of these. I am not endorsing any of these or necessarily saying that the one is worse than the other. Okay, I'm just informing you as to how all of these brushes will work. I use all of these, and all of them I use to great effect as an experienced artist. You must understand that. So there you have different sizes of rounds that you can use for block ends as well, and for painting large areas with texture. A lot of the times these synthetic rounds come with a little cap on. Now I just want to give you a tip here and a word of warning. Okay, if you should buy a brush like these with a cap on and you take the cap off, okay, do not put it back on, all right, after painting. Because what tends to happen is you use the brush in your painting and the brush opens up and it becomes broader. And then when you try and force it back in, it actually catches some of the bristles and pushes them back, and your brush is damaged. So do not do that. Once you are going to use the brush and you lift off the cap, okay, throw it away. Okay, you do not need that anymore. So I decided to put these into a different category as opposed to the rounds. The rounds are much larger and they can be used more robustly. These I put into the category of detailers. Brushes you use for finer, detailed finishes in your paintings. They work really well for that. I've got longer ones here that can create nice long hairs and that type of thing. I've got shorter ones for finer going in details, and some a little bit larger, but they all basically serve the same purpose. Once again, all right, like with most synthetic hair rounds, they come with this cap on, okay? Once you remove the cap, okay, and you start using it, don't put it back on. It's going to push back some of the hair. It's going to get caught in it, and you're going to ruin your brush. So art stores aren't the only place that you can find brushes. And yes, you'll be surprised, these hardware brushes are also very good for using in oil painting. Okay, here I've got a darker one. The darker one has got a stronger type of synthetic nylon hair. Okay, you can use that. This is the softer one. It's got a bit more of a velvety kind of a feel. These are great for creating marks and grasses. Once again, not to be just used straight like that, because like this, you just use it for coating, maybe with varnish, or using it as a brush for painting. This is not what we are using these for. For art, you can use these by plucking out some of the fibers and creating a brush that can create interesting and pleasing marks. Okay, so the next category of brushes that I want to talk about is what we call the hog hair brushes. Now, when it comes to hog hair brushes, I like to use them to texturize my surface. Hog hair brushes really take up a lot of paint, but they also take up a lot of paint into the actual bristles. The paint clogs up into the bristles because they are wider. They've got much more of a wider gap than your nylon, for example. Okay, a lot of the paint tends to go in there and not come out as much. So what I do with these, here's a set. They tend to be a cheap, this is a cheap one, a cheapie that I use. I would generally buy a whole pack of these, and then I would take them and create my own type of brush. I'd rearrange them, I'd alter them by the use of a scissors or a knife or a Stanley, and then I'd create shapes that I can use to create textured surfaces, foliage, leaves, grasses, that type of a thing. This is what a set will look like. So this would be on the lower side, lower tier of the brushes, and I would say get some of these and experiment with them and create brushes that can give you a different kind of mark and different kind of texture. Okay, so over here I have some specialized brushes. The first one I can show you is this one over here. I don't really know what they call this one. It looks like a kind of a rake or a fork. I suppose you could call it a rake brush or a fork brush if you like. They're kind of soft, and I feel like that they tend not to create a great mark when they're like this. So I took this one. This one's a bit older, same one, and I put a little bit of liquid gel medium into it and let it dry hard onto the brush, and it gives it a much more of a texturized feel, so I can create much more texturized kind of a mark with it. And then I have these over here, and this, okay, is what you would call an angled sculptor, or some people would call it a dagger. I find that these brushes are very versatile. I make my own, and what I tend to do is I give it a much deeper, longer angle for myself, and I just love the way it works. It can create points, it can create lines, you can use it broadside, you can use it like that. You can flick it up. It's really versatile, and I've got them in different sizes. So yeah. Okay, so like I promised, I'm going to be showing you how to take your brushes and ruin them. We're going to be creating our own brushes. I'm going to first show you how I create an angled brush. Let's start with that one. I'm going to take all of these away. Let's start with this. And what you're going to need is a scissors. Nice sharp scissors. Let's just open this up. This is going to be a really, once you have this brush, it's going to be very nice. So, just careful for your hands. But what I start doing is, I start taking it and I start cutting at a point like that. Alright. Takes a bit of time. You just need to be patient, and you cut all these hairs. And what you want to do, I did is go from one point to the edge there. Just make sure you leave a bit of a tip. Okay? And you can hold, like I said, just be careful for your fingers. Don't cut your finger now. And then you just slowly start taking some of that bristles off. It takes a bit of time, but you just keep doing that. You just keep going. Just keep going like that. And there you have it. That's what you call a brush cut right over there. All right. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is a composite cut. If you want to do it both ways. So the angled dagger was like that. A composite is you're cutting it, tape it on both sides. Maybe you want it like that. So let's see. So in that case, you'll have to take off at the tips first. This one's a little bit harder. And on that side, you want to get two sides that are quite equal. I'm probably going to just slant up the angle a little bit. Okay, so now we are going to alter one of these hardware brushes. Okay, and I'm going to take out a lot of bristles to create like a long feathery kind of a look. Okay. So there we have it. In front of me, I have got a range of brushes that I use for my landscapes. And these brushes work very well for oil. And in fact, some of these brushes are actually acrylic brushes, but they work just as well for oil. Proper brush care always needs to be maintained. And that's one of the key factors that will absolutely guarantee you performance from these brushes and results in your paintings. Here I have, and what you should have is a couple of detailers of different shapes and lengths, not many, some rounds, a decent range of flats, and then some cheaper tier brushes that you can use and manipulate and experiment with to create really different kind of marks that will include the hog bristles that you can use for creating nice textures and build up textures with. Okay, I want to thank you all for watching this video right up to the end. Let me know in the comments if this was absolutely educational for you. Let me know what you think. And until next time, have a great day.